Back in March of 2023, Epic announced their new marketplace, calling it FAB. The promise was an improved experience along with combining some of the other Epic-owned properties like Sketchfab, Quixel and ArtStation into one cohesive storefront. Initially, I believe there was a lot of excitement and optimism around this because Epic's launcher and marketplace over the past few years have been less than perfect. With their slow, unresponsive and overall dreadful user experiences, anything could be better than what we had at the time. And oh, how naive I was to think that. Because once it hit late October of 2024, FAB launches, and the first thing everyone does is panic grab all the Quixel assets. You see, for those who don't know, with the announcement of FAB also came the news that Quixel would no longer be free. The catch was, at the release of FAB, anyone could grab the Quixel assets and claim them for their own to use in whatever software they want, free, forever. Which for those on the other side not using Unreal, this was actually a really good deal. But when FAB actually launches, at least what I perceive is a widespread panic on different social medias talking about how to claim the Quixel assets, because Epic didn't make it perfectly clear how to actually claim them. If you'd used them in the past, were they already within your library and your account, or did you have to go through FAB and claim every single one individually? So within the first few days, I saw people who had made browser plugins that would skim through the website and add all the Quixel assets to your account. Now, thankfully, Epic did add a button on the FAB homepage, which basically does what all the FAB browser plugins did anyway. Now, I know there are going to be people who are defending Epic and FAB saying, people are overreacting, it's the user's fault for not understanding, or, simply Epic will change and fix things in the future. And every one of those defenses re-emphasizes my main takeaway from this, and that is that Epic has a communication problem. They miscommunicate with customers, and they miscommunicate the designs within their products and their services. And going back to that first example of claiming the Quixel assets, Epic's communication wasn't entirely clear, and when less context is given, more people tend to make assumptions about different things. Like initially, when I was skimming the announcement saying that FAB was going to replace the Unreal Marketplace, my initial thought was, fantastic, that means we must be getting a new Epic launcher, which got me really excited and quite disappointed when I found out, because far out Epic, if you and Adobe are competing for the slowest launcher on my PC right now, and I just cancelled my Adobe subscription, you see what I'm saying here? But you know what isn't a crap online service that destroys my brain cells each time I try to use it? This video's sponsor, Brilliant.
Brilliant is a learning platform with a first principles approach, meaning they help you get started building your knowledge from the ground up. And something really cool with their lessons is they have this hands-on problem-solving approach for their tasks, making it 6 times more effective than simply watching a lecture online. Let's touch some grass together, shall we? The lessons on Brilliant have actually been created by those who teach and lecture and are professionals in the industries that they represent. Places like Caltech and Duke, along with Microsoft and Google, are just to name a few of the businesses and organizations that they come from, which is pretty neat. Take this for the office. Being consistent in your learning is actually one of the most fundamental things you can do to improve. And Brilliant helps with that, setting aside minutes a day for you to learn your tasks. Better that than doom scrolling.
Brilliant makes it easy to learn anywhere on your phone, with lessons that you can do whenever you've got the time. Whether you want to start a new topic or get a quick practice in, get smarter and learn more in minutes. And this here is really cool for those who want to get started in programming, because here they have lessons in Python. This is perfect for you because you can start building programs on day one with their built-in drag and drop editor. And you get to learn all the essential coding elements, from loops and variables to nesting and conditionals. And with this, you can develop your mind to think more like a programmer and begin writing more complex programs to build games and software.
You can try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days by heading to brilliant.org/NathanRona or scan the QR code on screen.
Or you can click the link in the description. Either way, you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Be sure to check it out, and thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Now, going back to Epic and FAB, Looking at the current roadmap that they've published on things that they're working on for FAB now and into the future, you will see a lot of essential marketplace features not even being worked on yet. Here you can see the current roadmap of FAB, and as it currently stands while filming this video, the only things that are in progress are the initial search fixes and improvements, I would say. Simple things like improving the search rankings and discoverability, prioritizing exact matches, and adding syntax like and plus and or and not. And for them, that's the most essential thing, which honestly, I think that's right, because the biggest issue we've had and people are complaining the most about is the search rankings. A lot of it is flooded with low quality or generative content that isn't what people are searching for. So improving the search and having a good search engine is crucially important. I agree with that. Next though, the second essential thing is having a navigation tree and discoverability. So they're adding things like grids and wider tiles with creator names and other info, having a left tree nav. So this is stuff so that when you're searching through things, you can actually, go through categories and platforms and stuff. But the one thing I haven't said yet is that these things should have already been done before launching FAB. Like, okay, sure, you can improve your search rankings. That's something you could do post-launch because maybe there's issues with it. But things like navigation trees and filters are kind of things that should have already been done before your website or marketplace even launched. Like the next important thing are filter bars. But it's like, man, this is basic stuff. If you're replacing an entire marketplace, the marketplace you're replacing it with should be equal, if not greater, with the features and compatibility that it had with the previous one. Like they have a whole third section just for filters and changing how you'll discover things. And sure, some filters I think you could add post-launch, like filters by style, or including content dependent on tag suggestions, that sort of stuff. But filters with things like the type of game engine, maturity rating, or use of AI, or even like the license type and filtering it within the library, that's all really important stuff. And then the next important thing is them sorting with collections, which sure, that's an important thing to do, but the more essential things, I believe, are actually coming even further down the roadmap. Like here, this is something that I absolutely hate using FAB for right now, and that's having the correct versions of things to download. Like there are assets that I use in Unreal that are only available in certain versions, and by not including a simple drop-down for a version of an asset that I need, that is just taking away, because I can do that in Unreal Marketplace already. All that stuff was already included, and so you're removing that from me, taking that away from consumers and saying, wait 6 months to a year, we'll add it back into this new store. This just shows how rushed and unprepared and unprofessional this whole thing has been. And here they're going to include things like quality of life fixes for UI for the Unreal Engine plugin, related to scrolling and left-hand panel, drag and drop support for like from the library to Unreal Engine. Again, that's something that I could wait for in the future because I know that's a more complex feature. At the same time, though, I'm like, that would be something that would actually make me want to switch from Unreal Marketplace to FAB. Having something like that at launch would have convinced me this was a smart change over, that I'm actually seeing improvements to the service as a consumer that I'm having. But by promising this in the future, which we don't know when, is quite concerning. It's just, okay, cool, it's going to happen eventually. But for now, it's an awful, terrible experience because I can't drag and drop things into Unreal. Half the time, I don't even know whether or not the assets are going to be supported within Unreal or even the version if it's available. And a whole bunch of other things that I just think are entirely necessary, like a plugin feature to locate assets in the project or on disk, all the owned assets appearing in my library. That's all really essential things that should be included at the launch of something as big as this. But don't worry, it gets worse because I didn't even realize that there isn't a video player within FAB. So at stage 6, I guess we're going to call it, they will add a video player. So for right now, FAB cannot play videos or high resolution screenshots either. That's not available for us. Again, more essential things when I'm browsing for assets or looking at assets I already own, like technical formats. This stuff right now, all of these yellow squares do not exist on FAB as it currently stands. That's really bad. Like technical details are crucially important for people who are using these services. Change logs. If an asset updates, I want to see the change log so I can actually make a judgment call on whether or not I should update the asset, or whether I know an issue from an update has been risen, or a quick bug fix. Like, I don't know right now because change logs don't exist in FAB. That's insane to me. Comments associated with forum FABs. Again, that's something that would have made it so much better at launch to feel implemented within the rest of Unreal's ecosystem. But the fact that we don't have that, it just shows, and it being at stage 6 with all these other things ahead of it really baffles me. And then we get to the definitely more essential things like a FAQ section, things that are crucially important when looking at assets and being able to ask questions like, hey, does this support this? Is this compatible with this other asset? The more I see that is missing from FAB, the more I'm like, how are people using it and buying assets on it? Because one of the things we've seen a lot of is that sellers are saying that since FAB has launched, they've made $0 from their assets. Some saying ever since the announcement, they've seen a drop in sales. But definitely with things like this, with FAB not having these core features, I can see why people are just holding off not using the surface entirely, and it's affecting people's livelihoods. Now, on to stage 7, they're going to add wish lists, which this is insane to me that they don't have this at launch. I had wish lists for Unreal Marketplace, which are now completely gone. Everything with that has disappeared for me. My wish lists, my reviews, all that sort of stuff just evaporated. And the fact that a core feature like this, not only is it not available at launch, it is put at number 7 of crucial things to add. So things like the search and the navigation bar and the filters and collections and UE plugins and different, like all these other features have been placed before wish listing, which I think is a crucial feature people need, because at least for me, a solo dev, in my free time occasionally, I will browse a marketplace and I will wish list or like things or put things into some sort of collection or folder for things to buy later, whether it's an idea I have for a project, I'm like, this asset would be helpful, or maybe it's something I'm waiting for, my next paycheck or whatever. And by not having these core features, you're expecting people to bookmark pages like it's the early 2000s again. And obviously they know it's important because they've added it here, but I don't understand why producers or those in charge of organizing developers making this stuff, why are wish lists at number 7? They should be at the very front, same with the search results. But I gotta say, wish lists are up there. But I think the next thing, which is number 8 on the list of things that they have yet to do, which is reviews and rankings, are probably even more up there, because being able to rank and review products, whether it's YouTube videos with likes and dislikes, or marketplaces with different game engines or software or whatever else, reviews are so incredibly important to consumers. So much so. And I think it would actually fix a lot of issues they have with the initial search results if people could just 1-star assets that are just garbage. Instead, we have at number 8, reviews and ratings, which there's text reviews and then there's additional details. So, the starring. I think these two, wish lists and reviews and ratings, need to be at the front. Because even if you rush this product out, these things need to be here for consumers. It is 2025, for crying out loud. If I cannot wishlist a product or see ratings to help me make a decision on whether or not I should buy a product, that's just abysmal product design and behavior. And Epic, someone who I think harbors themselves on making high quality products and services and being a big business that does the things that everyone wants it to do, not being able to know whether or not a product on your marketplace is good or not and be able to leave a good or bad review. Literally every other marketplace has this feature. And the final thing, which I think should have been there at launch as well, is seller tools. If you want people to be able to use your service, your marketplace, you need to allow them to use tools to see what products are selling, how many clicks they're getting, their monthly reports, all that sort of stuff. And I understand, sure, things like bundles and, seller discounts, maybe that is like a month or 2 away. But this is at number 9 of things that they are on for their to-do list. This is very far down the track. Lastly, we have things that aren't even on the list yet that are probably like nice to haves in the future, but we don't know when they're going to happen yet. Like MetaHuman, Twinmotion, Unreal Engine, and Fortnite, these are all things Epic pushes so hard. And you would think if they were going to reinvent and remake a new store, that one of the things they push a lot within their launcher would also be included in their marketplace. But it's not. They're not essential to me, but I'm sure there are people who use these things that are just feeling quite forgotten. And lastly, they have FAB Desktop, which please do not be a separate application to the Epic launcher. Just remake that thing from scratch because it is terribly slow and awful to use. I absolutely despise it. It is my biggest pet peeve for being an Unreal dev is the Epic launcher. And it doesn't end. I see online on Twitter and on Reddit, I will just get people posting on the Unreal forums and that sort of stuff. FAB is terrible for X reason. And they'll say whether it's for a user experience reason, whether it's because they can't find an asset they really enjoyed and loved, or for whatever else, it's just unforgivable at this point. And the crazy thing is, Epic's own CEO Tim Sweeney has come out saying that FAB was a mistake. They did launch too early. They didn't give it enough time to cook. But Tim, there's a big difference between admitting a mistake and actually fixing it. Because if Epic actually cared about their customers, they wouldn't have released an inferior product. And even if they did, they should have immediately rectified it by closing it down and relaunching Unreal Marketplace until FAB was properly ready. Because the thing that FAB doesn't have that the Unreal Marketplace did was a somewhat working search feature. It had reviews, it had wish lists, it had bundles and sales, and it had all the navigation and filters and tools and experiences that FAB is now working within their roadmap. And by removing all those things from customers, you are then screwing them over. Like, I am sure if Apple made a new app store, rebranded it, removed some features, and forced its users to use it, Tim Sweeney and Epic would have a field day suing the crap out of them. But Tim, don't go crying about how big businesses are screwing people over when you're doing the exact same thing here. And it's not just customers who you're screwing over, it's also the sellers as well. You are affecting their livelihoods. People generate an income from your marketplace. So this isn't just a simple, whoopsie, we made a mistake, add it to the Trello board and we'll work on it for the next 6 to 12 months. You are effectively changing the landscape of those who buy and sell on your store. So honestly, Epic's mission with FAB has been an absolute failure. It wants to combine several ecosystems together without any actual compatibility, and FAB's lack of features is an absolute joke of a service. And the most evil part is that every single Unreal Engine Marketplace user was compelled to switch over to this. Buyers lost their reviews and their wish lists, their FAQ sections, their compatibility options. Sellers were compelled to migrate over to FAB, or not at all. So Epic CEO Tim Sweeney go on about consumer choice when mentioning Apple or Steam, but then seems to leave his own ethical dilemmas at the door when it comes to his own business practices.